everyone, my name is Natalie. Today I wanted to do a Women in Translation Month TBR. I have selected a pile of books here that I wanted to show you as my potential TBR for the month. Realistically, I will not be reading all of these, and I was first initially planning on making a smaller TBR, but then I couldn't decide on the ones that I wanted to prioritize over others. So I've selected 10 books, I think, 10 or 12. 10 or 11 books, and I will also be focusing on women in translation for my movie watching, and I will leave a link to my Letterboxd list that I've created for Women in Translation Month as a thing to go aside my reading for the month. Again, that is a list of titles, I think about 50 titles, and I will not be watching all of those movies, but they are just various movies from all around the world directed by women, and that I'm interested in watching, and we'll see how many of them I get to, but they are a place to choose from, and I thought that I would share it in case you were also looking for films to watch in August. So without further ado, let's get into the books. First, we have a Croatian author called Dasa Drenik. This is Belladonna, and this is one of my 12 authors I wanted to read in 2025, so I thought, since it's one of my reading goals this year and I'm definitely lagging behind on that, I would include this author that fits perfectly with the Women in Translation Month focus in August. This book is, I think, about a reclusive type male character. It says Andreas Ben is a writer and psychologist, an intellectual proper, but his world has been falling apart for years. When he retires with a miserable pension and finds out that he is ill, he gains a new perspective on the debris of his life and the life of his friends. This is translated from the Creation by Celia Hawkesworth. A book that I've been meaning to read for ages is Driver Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk, translated by Antonia Lloyd-Jones. The sort of murder mystery is also about a elderly, solitary type figure. Everything about this book really sounds like something I would enjoy, so I would really like to get to this one, although I think I might save it for the later parts of August because it sounds like it would be suitable for the transition into autumn. So there's that. And this is translated from Polish. Next we have Notes of a Crocodile by Shu Maoin, translated by Bonnie Huie. And this is a Taiwanese author, I think. Let's see if I can find... Yes, a Taiwanese author, and it's also queer, which is definitely one of the reasons that I was drawn to this. It's set in post-martial law era of the late 80s Taipei. Notes of a Crocodile is a coming-of-age story of queer misfits discovering love, friendship, and artistic affinity while hardly studying at Taiwan's most prestigious university. I thought this would be perfect to read in the late summer, since it's sort of pre-term, school term beginning around that time. Sort of the academia aspect of it I thought would be fun around this time of year. And I've also been really drawn to movies set in the 80s and 90s in China, Taiwan, Japan, not even set, but made during this time period. So I think I think this would be something perfect to go alongside that kind of mood. Like, for example, Chungking Express, which I recently watched and really enjoyed. Next we have Voyager by Nona Fernandez, translated from the Spanish by Natasha Wimmer, and this is a Chilean author, I think. This is a non-fiction book. Voyager begins with Nona Fernandez accompanying her elderly mother to the doctor to seek an explanation for her frequent falls. As the author stares at the image of her mother's brain, it occurs to her that the electric signals shown on the screen resemble the night sky. Inspired by a mission of the Voyager spacecrafts, Fernandez begins a process of observing and documentation, weaving together the story of her mother's illness with the story of her country and of the cosmos itself. Fernandez braids astronomy and astrology, neuroscience and memory, family history and national history into this intensely imagined autobiographical essay. So that sounds really interesting, both thematically as well as the form of this writing, even though it's such a short book. Next we have one of the books I had on my spring TBR. It's Stillborn by Guadalupe and Nettel, and this is translated by Rosalind Harvey. This author is Mexican, I think. Yes, born in Mexico. And this is a book about motherhood, specifically about choosing not to be a mother, or to both, I think, focusing on being a mother, becoming a mother, as well as choosing not to be. So it's following two women, and I think one of them is determined not to have kids. Alina and Laura are independent and career-driven women in their mid-30s, neither of whom have built their future around the prospect of a family. Laura has taken the drastic decision to be sterilized, but as time goes by, Alina becomes drawn to the idea of becoming a mother. When complications arise in Alina's pregnancy and Laura becomes attached to her neighbor's son, both women are forced to reckon with the complexity of their emotions. One of the reasons I was really drawn to this around the springtime was because I was reading several books on motherhood in the beginning of the year, and I'm still really drawn to this. And I also know that I have access to an audiobook version of this, and I think that would be a great way to get more of my Women in Translation Month reading into the month, since I do really like listening to audiobooks while I'm knitting and crocheting. Next is This World Does Not Belong to Us by Natalia García Freire, and this is translated from the Spanish by Victor Meadowcroft. This is a author from Ecuador, I think. I have to check that. Yes, it's an author from Ecuador. And the description of this is sort of talking about the main protagonist being really drawn to insects. It says, many years have passed since Lucas was expelled from his childhood home. Now Lucas is back, fully grown and intent on claiming his rightful inheritance. But he is not interested in the house as it once was, nor in his mother's lovingly planted flower beds, now conquered by weeds, nor in the lavish portraits covering every wall. Lucas belongs to a darker world, one crawling with the only creatures he truly trusts, insects. As the house crumbles before his eyes, Lucas turns to the allies of his underground kingdom to help him take revenge. One of the reasons I was really drawn to this right now is because I just rewatched Anoshka, The Valley of the Wind, directed by Hayao Miyazaki, and the insect aspect of that really stuck in my mind. And when I was looking for books for this TBR and I read that synopsis, I felt like this would be a perfect companion to read closely to watching that movie. If you haven't watched it, go do that. Next is a book that I was drawn to picking up because of someone on YouTube called Post Office Girl. I don't remember her name at the moment. I will leave a link to her channel below. I really enjoy her reading vlogs in particular, and she recently talked about reading this book, and the way she talked about it made me really interested. It's called The Wall by Marlen Haushofer, translated by Shaun Whiteside. It's about a woman who is basically finding herself in a world where every human has vanished. And she is alone with a cat and a cow, or something like that. A cat, a dog, and a cow. As her only companions, she learns how to survive and cope with her loneliness. So it's sort of a post-apocalyptic, dystopian type story, but it's very slow-paced and very introspective. The way she talked about it made me really interested, and I love new directions anyway, so I was really drawn to this. And I think, again, this one I would love to read towards the end of the month, maybe even leave for the autumn, but I wanted to include it here as an option for the month. Next we have a book that I have out from the library. It's called The Water Statues by Fleur Jaeggy, and this has been translated by Ginny Alhadef, I think, from the Italian. I forgot to mention that Marlen Haushofer is Austrian. So the reason I was interested in this one is because I read Fleur Jaeggy's what was it called? I read one of her other books that had that was set in a boarding school and had sort of homoerotic vibes. I really enjoyed it. And this one says The Water Statues is a shiningly peculiar novel which takes place among the long shadows cast by family and privilege. This early work, dedicated to Ingeborg Bachmann, features the various relatives, servants and friends of Beethlem, a wealthy recluse who keeps statues in his villa's flooded basement, where memories shiver in uncertain light and the water runs off the sea. This band of deracinated, loosely related souls spend as much time milling about in the distant past as they do in the mansion's garden full of intoxicated snails, and converse less with each other than with the inert marble figures. Clothed in Jaeggy's austere yet voluptuous prose, The Water Statues delivers an indelible picture of the swampiness of family life. That's such a good synopsis. Really interested in reading more Fleur Jaeggy in general, and this was just the one that I picked up first. So the next one is Hunchback by Sao Ichikawa, translated by Polly Barton. And this book I've seen everywhere. It was nominated for the Book International this year, but the reason I recently borrowed this from my library is because of Moles from Moles by Moonlight on Instagram. I really enjoy her book recommendations and all of her lists. She does fantastic posts. If you don't already follow her on Instagram, you should. And she has some fantastic posts for Women in Translation Month recommendations. But she talked about this one and made me really intrigued. This one says, born with a congenital muscle disorder, Shaka Isawa has a severe spine curvature and uses an electric wheelchair and ventilator. Within the limits of her care home, her life is lived online. She studies, she tweets indignantly, she posts outrageous stories of an erotica on an erotica website. One day, a new male carer reveals he has read it all: the sex, the provocation, the dirt, her response, an indecent proposal. Written by the first physically disabled author to win Japan's most prestigious literary award, and acclaimed instantly as one of the most important Japanese novels of the 21st century, Hunchback is an extraordinary, thrilling glimpse into the desire and darkness of a woman placed at humanity's edge. So this has been a long time coming. You need to read that one soonish. Next we have Nada by Carmen Laforet, translated by Edith Grossman from Spanish. I assume, I think this is a Spanish author, if I can find some information. Carmen Laforet was born in Barcelona. Okay, and this one is sort of a mystery, a gothic type mystery, I think. It says 18-year-old Andrea moves to Barcelona to stay with relatives she has not seen in years while she pursues her dream of studying at university. Arriving in the dead of night, she discovers not the independence she craves, but a crumbling apartment and an eccentric collection of misfits whose psychological ruin and violent behavior echoes that of the recent Civil War. As the tension between the family members grows in claustrophobic intensity, Andrea finds comfort in a friendship with Anna, a girl from university whose gilded life only serves to highlight the squalor of Andrea's own experiences. But what is the secret of the relationship between Anna and Andrea's predatory uncle Roman, and what future can lie ahead for Andrea in such a bizarre and disturbing world? Again, we have the academia theme, and again, I might prioritize this towards the end of the month, but I really want to get to this one. I've had this on my shelf for ages, and also when I was trying to decide on what books to choose for this TBR, Jennifer from En Bok om Dagen on Instagram mentioned loving this one, so I had to prioritize it. If you are not already following her on Instagram, you should. And so yeah, this will be a priority this month. Last of my Women in Translation Month TBR for 2025 is 15 år, Den revolutionära våren by Vigdis Hjort. This is translated from the Danish into Swedish by, if I can find a name for this, Jens Hjelte. And this one I think is about a woman whose mother becomes ill, and she is looking through her mother's stuff, and that sort of she starts to look at her mother in a new light. I think that is the synopsis of this. I need to read this quickly. Yeah, so Paula is the protagonist of this, and she finds a pile of letters that her mom has written, and she learns some things like family secrets through reading these letters, and it sort of changes the way she looks at, I guess, her family and her mother. It says it's a novel about the last summer of childhood, and I really enjoy Veidesjort's The Posthorn book, Long Live the Posthorn, which I read in an English translation, so this will be the first time that I read Veidesjort in Swedish. This is another book that I know I will have access to the audiobook, so I'll probably go with that to combine my reading with other things. So those are all of the books that I have chosen as potentials for August this month, for Women Translation Month. If you've read any of these, I would love to hear your thoughts, or if you think that I should prioritize any of them, if you think that I will like some of them more than others, or if you have any recommendations based on these that you think I would like, and I would love to hear what you are planning to read in August if you're reading anything for Women in Translation Month, or if you're watching movies. I would also love to hear about that. That's all, I think, and hopefully I will be making more videos now. It's been a while, but I really want to get into the groove of things again, and I thought that this would be the perfect time to return with Women in Translation Month. So I hope you're doing fantastic, hope you've had a good summer so far, and I will hopefully talk to you soon. Bye.